I study horses. Beauty matched only by their...
Okay, on this particular foot, we've straightened out the HPA somewhat, so it's not as broken back. We've got a proportional relationship between toe length and the fetlock to the ground length. We've got a hairline that's fairly parallel to the ground and a pastern that descends centered into the capsule. We've got a toe length that's normal for his breed and size. We've got a width that's normal. We've got an angle that's normal. And we've got a size, an overall size that's normal and historically normal for him. So in terms of proportional relationships, in this foot, we've achieved it right now. I also have done myself and him a huge favor by not overdoing any one part of that. So as I go through and trim these other feet, there's room for adjustment. If I find something in another foot that tells me that this foot needs to change, that's a huge part of trimming, is not overdoing any one thing. So you can always come back or you can just let it grow and get it next time. I remember the old farriers would say, leave a little bit for next time. And I never understood that, because why would you leave it? But now I do. And that leaving a little bit for next time often comes in the form of vertical depth. And the benefits of vertical depth are so huge that we'll go into it in another video. But in terms of this trim, I've left enough to burn. I've left nice vertical depth. And we've improved all the proportional relationships to itself. Now we'll go through the other 3 feet. Okay, proportional relationship here, just over a third, just under a half to the fetlock. Looks good. Most horses have the high foot on the right side. It's important to know, because as you know, when you know what's normal, then you know what's not normal. Rocker toe. I remember when I was young, I had owners say, hey, this horse went really well, don't change anything. And as a young farrier, I'm like, well, his foot grew. How do I not change anything? I have to trim it. And what I realized is that what they're asking is keep the relationships the same. They don't even know that's what they're asking. What they mean is keep the proportionality the same as you did last time. Do what you have to do to bring it into the same relationship with itself and with the other 3 feet that you did last time. And what they're really saying then is that that relationship worked really well for my horse this time. Another interesting idea is that, and that I hear from horse owners often is that well, that's never happened to my horse before. That's never been a problem before. My horse has never had an abscess before. He's never been lame before. And that's why, as horseshoers, we have to monitor the proportional relationships of things and develop that history, because there's always a first time for everything. And there's usually reasons for that, and there's usually precursors to a lameness, or reasons for an abscess, that as farriers we can identify with enough experience and with enough history, and head off or start steering the horse's feet and or trainer and owner in a better direction. So knowing the proportional relationships helps me identify when something's about to happen for the first time. Trying to do a little less. Only cleaning up what's absolutely necessary in theory for hygiene. In the frog, what's only necessary to achieve the proportional relationships in terms of the angle, only what's necessary in the sole to have the concavity. Okay, Delano, 4 7/8 even. Angle 54. Perimeter. $15. Let's do 15 for both feet. Good job, bud. All right. So in this foot, in theory, we've also achieved proportionality to itself and then also to the other foot, because the measurements match up pretty close and they match up in the pattern that makes the most sense and is the most common. The same angle, same toe length. The width is just 1/16 less on this foot, and this foot is the high foot. High feet will always be narrower than low feet. And if they're not, that really indicates a problem, which I've seen that before. But it indicates a big problem in how the horse is using themselves. And if you work toward achieving what's most normal, you'll usually be able to correct that big problem. All right, in my experience, and you got to go by your experience, but the best toe length for a hind foot to have is the same or 1/8 of an inch longer than the front. Are we giving away too much of our secret sauce? We'll just do it, and then you can always edit.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay. It is completely possible to take a toe too far back, and I've done that too. So I have to be super conscious of every move I'm making. Following the shape of the hairline, bringing it back to just over a third, under a half from the fetlock to the ground. Toe length should be roughly 1/8 of an inch longer than the fronts. Looks good. Rocker toe. Nippers tip down a little bit. Slightly high on the lateral. I'd much rather do too little and come back next time and have left them long than take too much and make them sore. Good. No pads behind, so I'm leaving that frog tall. We want that frog to fill the concavity. We want it to fill the space in between the heels, and we also want it to reach to the ground, if possible, if the horse is comfortable enough to stand on it. Okay. Let's say 14 1/4. The most common proportion between measurements is the hinds are 1/2 inch smaller than the fronts. Right now he's 3/4 of an inch smaller. So it's something for me to think about. Angle 56. Width 4 3/4 plus. So it's also most normal for the hinds to be narrower than the fronts, which he is, and higher angled by about 2 degrees, which he is. Not taking much sole out of there. I specifically didn't take sole out to begin with because I want to avoid taking too much. So I found that junction between live sole and dead sole at the toe by texture, by color, and by measurement. And I went off of that instead of sole plane. And that kept me from taking too much. And our climate plays a massive part in what we can do, because by not taking too much, what we're doing is keeping strength, keeping mass, volume, integrity. And in my climate, which is Washington, which is wet, Western Washington, we need all the mass, volume, the strength that we can get, the integrity, the density, the thickness. So that's why I really focus on that here. In other environments where you have a stronger foot because of drier climate, it may not be as high a priority. We also need all the thickness of sole for strength and protection, because we tend to get really thin soles because of the wet.
I study horses, beauty matched only by their strength. I try and capture a little of that as I move on without your face. I study horses, my picture of living zen. You see